amazing. You really look amazing. Are you 61?
I was 60 in January.
60. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you look amazing and full of life and vibrant and energetic. And every day you're doing something different. I see you're at beach huts, you're cold swimming,
I'm day raving Saturday.
Day raving. Yes, you're day raving. Oh my gosh, that was the best one. I'm like,
cannot wait. It's going to be wild. I'm going to do some videos. I'll put them out.
You're traveling in your car?
Yeah.
And camping in your car?
It's a mini camper van now. Woo! Freedom.
You are making the next couple of years look very good to me. You are setting an amazing example. Okay, so it's so great to meet you face to face. I've been following you on Twitter for a long time and noting all this stuff and appreciating the information you share. And then we are part of a larger group. I'm outside the UK, but I put my name in this group of MenoClarity, which is just sort of bringing some balance to this really polarized and sort of sometimes hysterical conversation about menopause in the UK. So, okay. First of all, let's just provide some context for everyone. You are not a clinician, you're a scientist. And how did you get into menopause? Like, you started in fertility, I understand. So just sort of explain your background, where you are based, etc.
Yes, it's a real pleasure to be here. So I'm based in University College in London. I actually live near Cambridge, so I'm quite a way away. So I'm sitting now in my lovely village near Cambridge. So I finished my PhD in 1987, and your listeners are going to go, we weren't born. I know. No, they probably won't. They probably won't. If they're menopausal, they would have been born. Anyway, 1987. I finished my PhD and was looking for I was very open about what shall I do next. I love doing my PhD. I love the topic, but I thought, let's see, that it's my first job. And I found a job as a clinical embryologist. So they are the people that work in the fertility lab and do all the magic in the fertility lab. And this was, as I said, 1987. And Louise Brown, the world's first IVF baby, was only 9 years old. So it was very new and very exciting and controversial and a bit edgy. I'm just reading a book now. It talks about sexy science. And I love that phrase. I talk about sexy science a lot. So it was sexy. So I thought, let's do it. So but when I started it, I was learning so much about fertility and reproductive health. And then we were all trying not to get pregnant. And when I started talking to my friends, I realized that none of us really understood even our menstrual cycle. We'd been taught such basics at school. And I started writing a book about reproductive health in 1987, but I wasn't qualified to do that. I was still learning, and I don't know where life goes, but about almost 30 years disappeared. And it was not quite 30 years, but in 2015, I thought it's time to look at this book. Why aren't I writing this book? Now all my friends were menopausal. And nothing had changed. We still didn't know how our bodies worked. And actually, the best book in 1987 was called Our Body Ourselves, which is a US book, which I loved, but we hadn't really gone much further than that. So in 2015, I set up a website where I just blog, and we have some guest blogs called Global Women Connected. And then I started writing the book, which was published in 2021. I can't say last year anymore, 2 years ago. And I obviously wrote about the menopause. I've got chapters on fertility and pregnancy and sex and contraception, but also about the menopause. And around 2015, my interest really, obviously friends going through the menopause. And I think it's good to work on something that's very dear to you. And for me, I thought, wow, my friends need to understand about the menopause. So that really, I'm still working in the fertility field. I feel that my agenda is teaching reproductive health. And I'll tell you about the international group that we have started. That's our number one aim. So my view on reproductive health is from puberty to the menopause. I think that's very much included. And so much that I've learned from how we can deliver information about fertility and infertility, etc., absolutely applies to the menopause. So I wanted to do research in this area and about 4 years ago, started my first research in menopause, and it was very much listening to women. I want to listen to women to hear what they have to say and how we can help fix this lack of education. And so I've got a few papers out already. We've got a paper coming out, 2 papers coming out in the next few weeks, and we're doing other studies this year, which I can tell you about as we go through. But yeah, but as you said, it's a very controversial field. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So you mentioned our reproductive health, and we don't understand our reproductive health very well, even by the time we hit perimenopause. Part of the reason we may be having such a problem is that we don't really understand our reproductive health. So can you talk about that a little bit? When you're talking to menopausal women, do you see they don't understand it either?
So from my research, the absolute top issue they all talked about, and we're at the moment we're doing focus groups. I did one last night. All of the focus groups, every time I talk to women, the biggest issue is that they didn't understand this. So they're going into this key stage in their life, which is not hugely complicated once you know it. But if you don't know that brain fog, lack of motivation, or vaginal issues, all these issues that you may go, you probably know about hot flashes. But if you don't know about all these other issues, so many women don't join up the dots. They think they're going crazy. They think they're having a midlife crisis. They then have problems with their relationships, problem with their work environment. And that's not fair. It's quite simple for us to be able to teach them this information, but we've never done it. And if we've never done it, they're literally going into a black box. And this can last for many women. They told us it's been years since they joined the dots and realized, and then sometimes their doctors told them, oh no, it's not the perimenopause, you're too young, or things like this, which was total misinformation on their part. That was the other big theme that's come out of my research, that their physician didn't understand, so then gave them bad advice. So then they thought, I'm not menopausal, there must be something else, I'm ill, I've got a brain tumor or something, because my brain's not right, my emotions are not right, everything, depression, anxiety, the list goes on. So I think it's been hugely unfair. What I do think is great now is that we are talking about it. So we are in a way over the wall. We are getting it on the table, but now we've got to talk about it in a sensible way and give women, and I think everybody, because I think all men, they are affected by this indirectly for sure. And so everyone needs to understand about the perimenopause and the menopause with accurate information, so that they can enter this stage understanding what may happen to them and joining the dots. I did a survey of women under 40 because I wanted them to start thinking about it. Don't think about it when you're, I asked women in the survey, when did you start thinking about it? Lots of them said years after my symptoms started. I was like, oh my goodness. But some women in their 40s said, oh, we're too young. Why are you asking us this? We're too young. No, you're never too young. So I teach menopause in schools. I've been very lucky in the UK. It's in now the UK curriculum. We are teaching about menopause in schools.
Because if you understood what's going on with your menstrual cycle, and you learned that when you were young, then you would understand perimenopause. Because in a lot of ways, I feel like it's almost a macro of your monthly cycle in a way. Like, there's a lot of parallels, but I've been a health and wellness journalist, and I couldn't off the top of my head 10 years ago tell you what's going on with my menstrual cycle, or tell you how important ovulation is and to the health of our body, tell you when I have progesterone, right, estrogen, none of it. And so all of the things that we encounter, and I'd love you to talk about this just before perimenopause, all those other things that we're all experiencing, like fibroids, peak polycystic ovarian syndrome, and endometriosis. We're so ill-equipped to face these things, infertility. We're so ill-equipped to face these things before we hit perimenopause, and we're just flying blind at the doctor. We don't know the basics, right? So are you finding this?
Yeah, totally. This is why I don't work just on one area, because you've got it exactly right. They're all linked. So in my view, and in my book, it's called Your Fertile Years. It's from the menstrual cycle to the menopause. I think everyone needs to understand that as soon as we can. So in schools, I teach the whole of reproductive health. And we did a survey of UK, and it's been done in Belgium and Greece as well, UK teenagers, to ask them what topics did they learn in school. And endometriosis and PCOS, 2% of kids, these are 16 to 18-year-olds. And this affects, both of them affect 1 in 10 women. Right. And in the UK, the data at the moment is that it takes about 8 years or more to diagnose a woman with endometriosis. And I tell you, the crux of the problem, we don't tell a woman what's normal. So teenagers are thinking this excruciating period pain they have, or their irregular cycles with PCOS, they don't know what's normal and what's abnormal. And so they don't know to go and seek help. And this has nothing to do with wanting to have children. Reproductive health is all of those bits and bobs that, menopause is not to do with having children, and neither is there's many other issues as well. Cancers, gynecological cancers, again, understanding what's normal. Is this pain normal? Is this cycle normal? So that's where we need to start, as we've got a lot to do. We've got a lot to do, but we need to start in schools, which is the biggest one I've been chipping away. We've made now a really comprehensive teaching guide for teachers to use, and we're doing some research with teachers to how they're going to implement it and how they're finding it. And hopefully the teenagers will tell us, yes, we've learned about some of these topics now, but we've got to teach everyone what's normal. This will help a woman's reproductive health, as you said, through her whole life. And she will go into the perimenopause totally informed. And I think that will absolutely reduce some of the major issues and misunderstanding that we have currently. And one of the things I have is myths. We have so many myths. We have lots in fertility and infertility treatment. And I've been working on years of trying to debunk myths. And we have the same with menopause. And this is, I find, really annoying that we have to spend time debunking myths when we could be doing something much more constructive. But with social media, these myths escalate.
Tell me, what are the things you see that make your hair curl? What do you see? What are the top myths that you're seeing?
So if we look at before menopause, if we look at fertility, it's that supplements are going to help. I wish they would. I wish they could. There's one of the logos many people use for infertility is a pineapple, because there's myths around eating a pineapple will help. I'm a scientist. For me, I need to see evidence-based research, good quality research, before I will say that this, I recommend X, Y, or Z. And even then, we have to keep an open mind. We have to question, because when new research comes out, then we might need to change our mind and say, actually, this much bigger, better quality study is now showing that doesn't work. So in my book, what I did is I went and read many of the papers, almost every paper I could, about all the myths. So even things like our 28-day menstrual cycle and ovulation on day 14, I went and read the original papers that said that. They were on a few hundred middle-class, white women, middle income, normal BMI. And in our study we did, looking at hundreds, looked at over 600,000 menstrual cycles. It's not that. It varies. We're not an algorithm. We're very varied individuals. So again, even with young people saying, oh, you're going to have a 28-day cycle, and then women not having a 28-day cycle, and they're actually still having a normal menstrual cycle, but they've got it in their head that that's not right. So myths. Okay. But if we look at the menopause, there's many being generated, but the biggest one by far at the top of the list for me, you're not going to be surprised, is, now I know we call it different things, but hormone therapy. So whatever we want to call it, hormone therapy, where we know that estrogen and progesterone go down in our perimenopausal years, and then post-menopause, they're almost non-existent. And so people are suggesting that if you replace them, so in the UK we call it hormone replacement therapy, then everything will be wonderful. But again, I've read all the evidence on everything that the people that are saying this are claiming, and it's just not true. Even there is quite a lot of evidence for hormone therapy to help hot flushes, for example, but yesterday I did a focus group. 2 of the women who were on there have HRT. They've had it for years and they still get hot flushes. So we're individual, we're very, very varied. And my biggest worry about HRT is that people are saying it's going to cure everything. Oh, actually, also one of the women had osteoporosis who takes HRT. So it worries me that we're misleading women. If you take this, it's going to cure everything. And it's even been out on social media. Don't worry about exercise, and the list goes on. Whereas for me, I think we need to worry about exercise, we need to worry about nutrition, and we need to worry about our sleep. Not in a negative way, I'll turn that around positively. We need to manage those 3, make sure they're really great and optimal. And listen, there will still be women who lead the healthiest lives ever, but who need hormone therapy. Absolutely. Just showing that we are absolutely individual. So I think every woman needs to do what's right for them. I think some will find hormone therapy an absolute game changer for their life, and they will never want to come off it. And that's fine. Mm-hmm. But we shouldn't have a narrative that every woman should be on HRT forever, because some of them will still get symptoms. Some of them will have other underlying diseases, which will really be made much worse from taking hormone therapy. And suggesting to women that you can take this and then not worry about exercise or nutrition and still drink alcohol every night and not sleep very well, is going to be really problematic, because those women are going to get sick.
That's one of the things, it's ironically, someone yesterday said to me on social media, I get the sense that you're anti-HRT. And I said, it's interesting that you say that, just because I ask questions and I point out some of the things it can't do for you. I had done a post that was like, can it talk to your husband about the problems you're having in your sex life for 20 years? Can it align you with your values and goals? Like stuff that's, and a lot of women said, look, I wouldn't have been able to address any of these things if I hadn't gone on HRT. Fine. But I do find we're in an interesting place where you are painted as anti if you're asking those questions. And that's where we are. And maybe this is beyond you, but why do you think in the UK that is so controversial now, to just be like, hey, I'm in the middle?
We've got some people who are very vocal, who really believe that every woman needs HRT forever, and it's going to prevent lots of diseases that I've looked into, and I can't see any data that suggests it's definitely going to prevent disease. If I thought it would prevent dementia, I've got dementia in my family, I would definitely be on it. But all the other people I know who are not of that frame of mind, none of us are anti-HRT. I've never met anybody. There may be people, but I've never met anyone who doesn't agree that for some women, HRT is a lifesaver. But everyone I've talked to in different countries about their data, etc., they're shocked at the UK, what's happening in the UK. And they don't understand, most countries, it's about 5 to 10% of women who are on HRT. Don't forget, there's about 20% of women that don't get any symptoms. Right. One of the women on my focus group yesterday said, I feel really bad. I haven't had anything. And she said she felt brilliant. So also there's the suggestion that even if you don't have symptoms, you should take HRT. Which again, many of us do not agree with. If you if you don't have symptoms, HRT is a drug, and HRT is a drug that will help some women with certain symptoms. So if you have those symptoms, try it. If it doesn't work, don't increase the dose. There's a certain amount you should do within guidelines where you can play with the dose. I think HRT prescribing is very complicated, and it's certainly way beyond me. It's not my area. So I think having an expert tweak your HRT if it's not quite working is important if it's not working. But for some women, it's not going to work. And for some women, they don't have symptoms. So I wouldn't see why you would take it.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I wonder if the doctors who are so vocal about it, women are lining up in my office, they're crying in my office. I think to myself, yes, all the women who are this upset about it are coming to you. That's who you're seeing. So I understand your catchment area is a bit skewed, because the women who are dealing with it and they're okay, they're not. Have you ever?
Yes, this is very common. So for example, in obstetrics, the obstetricians always see the cesarean sections. They don't see the lovely home birth that happened in 3 hours in a water bath, blah, blah, blah. And this is, you've absolutely got it right. The doctors that are seeing women in these clinics that are paying, the private clinics as well, they're the women who are really desperate. So that's a very skewed population. The 20% of women who are not having symptoms, and the bigger percentage of women that are managing their symptoms, they're not going to see those doctors. So that's absolutely. So in my research, I'm trying to speak to everybody. Now, all research is a little bit biased. I always worry when I do research that probably when you do a survey or a focus group or interviews, you are getting the people that have more problems with it. So if anything, I'm also seeing the people that are worse off. A few of the women have started my focus groups where I say, I really wanted to talk to someone about what I've been through. We have had a few that have had a fine time. But so I'm seeing probably the more problematic ones, but I am seeing lots who say it was fine. It was fine. And they're the ones I really want to hear from as well. But we've also got a problem now. There was in one of the national papers a few months ago, there was somebody who put a very positive menopause story. They said it was fine. I didn't have any problems, blah, blah, blah. Oh, she got ripped to shreds. And the term people used was medical gaslighting. So now it seems that if you've gone through an illness and you've been okay, then that story is not valid. And I think that's totally unfair to the younger generations who are coming up. I think we have to listen to everyone's story and everyone's voice. So I think that's very unfair. We are not undermining anybody and saying it's all in their head or anything of anyone that's having severe symptoms. And I do a lot of work in companies. And when I do this, I say the women sitting around this table are all having a different experience. So if you work with someone who's sailed through it, please don't put that onto the next woman who you might be working with who's having a really tough time. We are all different and we're all going to have a different experience. So the person with the really troubled perimenopause is someone we really need to support and help. And we're, lucky it's lucky to be able to have a positive story, but we need to share it. It's not all doom and gloom. And the light at the end of the tunnel is for many women, not all women, but for many women, post-menopause is an amazingly wonderful, liberating time of their life when they're free from. I asked them in my focus groups, what are the positives and negatives of being post-menopause? And, they shouted everything out. It's there. No more contraception, no more periods, no more crazy mood swings every month. The list went on, so there are many things to celebrate. And I think we are unjust to our next generations if we only tell them that this stage of their life is a terrible brick wall that they've got to try and get over. And that's the only way it's going to happen. I think that's really unfair.
Well, I met a hairdresser this weekend. I spoke at an event. She's 42. And she said, every woman that comes and sits in my chair says, just you wait, your stomach will grow and your hair will fall out and your skin gets awful and saggy. And I thought, what are you saying? Like, just you wait. Like, what? This is not what we do to our younger sisters in life. Like, this is not. And I know what you're talking about, some of this positive stuff, because I'm starting to feel it. I'm starting to feel like a clarity, and I'm starting to feel what people have talked about. And it's a really beautiful, like, it's an emotional thing. And I've had a long time. But just back to medical gaslighting, like, medical gaslighting is when you're in your doctor's office and your doctor doesn't listen to you or discounts your symptoms. That's what medical gaslighting is. And I've seen some people who should really know better taking that phrase and like completely misusing it.
I've
Like,
heard so many people misuse it. So many people. Honestly, so one of my students once said that I was doing it, and I was showing them something that was controversial, which I said I didn't agree with, and then they said, "Oh, you're medically gaslighting." I was like, "I just told you I don't agree with thing that you also don't agree with. We're agreeing, and then you're going to tell me I'm medically gaslighting." So listen, people always use words. I think language has really become distorted. But we have to be fair to our younger sisters. We really have to. And we, many women in their 40s, when you say, I think you might be perimenopause, no, don't tell me this. They're fearful. We shouldn't have women in their midlife be fearful of something that they're going to be maybe going through difficultly, or maybe going through easily. We've got to give them the whole information and not worry them. And I do think, even for going back to our reproductive health and our menstrual cycle when we're teenagers, I really think that looking after our nutrition, our exercise and our sleep, if we can get this sorted out while we're younger, it helps with our menstrual cycle through our whole life. It helps with if we want children, it helps with our fertility. And we will get women to the perimenopause at a much higher level of well-being. So hopefully there will be less of a problem for some of those women. As I said, not all. And then I've had so many arguments about this with people on social media. And there's just... every woman, they said no. One woman said to me last week, you can't have sex unless you take estrogen because your vagina will be dry. Not everyone's vagina goes dry, okay? It depends on our body composition, what we've done to our body in all these years. Are we deficient in any nutrients? Are we drinking alcohol every night? Are we exercising? And as I said, even if you do all of those, you've got a different body. If you have two super fit women, they've got different compositions. They are genetically, we haven't mentioned that, but genetics is really important. It is nature and nurture. Yeah. So with all of those, we know even from twins, even with the genetic side, there's variations. So that's the whole package. So again, two women will never have the same experience. But looking after our well-being is a really good starting point. And it's better to do it before we get to the perimenopause, before we want to have children. And even as teenagers, for some, that will really help with our menstrual issues that we may have. It's not going to eradicate, and we still need medicine. We still need, our doctors to look at us and give us advice at certain times, but it can really, really help. I'm absolutely convinced. If you look at all the long-term data, heart disease, dementia, cancer, all of these chronic conditions, everyone will say exercise, nutrition, sleep. Everyone says it. They can't all be wrong.
One. Yeah. Well, they always say walking. You don't even have to make it complicated. Like, walking is just I'm concerned myself about women having other health issues and then being treated for perimenopause and menopause. I'm concerned about the rise in autoimmune disorders. If you've got a thyroid condition, if you have problems with your liver, if you have gut problems and adrenal problems that are all connected, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist, but it strikes me that if you went on hormone therapy, you might feel better, but those things could be continuing in the background. And I wondered if you'd come across any research on that.
I've come across lots of comments about that, which I really haven't agreed with. I think you really need to make sure that you are talking to the consultant who's dealing with that underlying health condition. So I have heard the last few weeks in the UK, there's been this big discussion about taking testosterone, and I've talked to one of the world leaders is Professor Susan Davis from Australia. I've had some correspondence with her. I heard her give an excellent talk last year at the British Menopause Society, and her research has said that for people with a pathology in their sexual health, then testosterone can work. But there's a narrative going around the UK, every woman should take testosterone. And so the other issue that I heard in the last few days was women with polycystic ovarian syndrome, they have higher testosterone anyway. So there's some of them that have said, well, we're now being told that we should take more testosterone. And we need to look at that. So the issue with all of this is that women are being guinea pigs, and we have the same again with fertility treatment. I hear people say, in my clinic, I have found that this helps women. Okay, I've had it, as I said, across the board. That's not research. That is biased analysis. You give someone something. Are you actually getting them to complete a robust survey about how they're feeling before, how they're feeling after? If you measured everything, or are they just coming to see their doctor who prescribed that and say, oh yes, I feel fine? That's not research. And I always say to everyone, if it's robust research and you've done a proper study, then please publish it in a peer-reviewed journal and let's read it. And they never do. I mean, I've had this infertility treatment for decades. They never do, because it's not robust. It's hearsay. It's just, I got in a huge row with someone on Twitter this week, and I've just stopped replying. And they talked a lot about anecdotal evidence. That's not evidence. Anecdotal is anecdotal, and it's just people in conversation. And yes, we want to hear women's voices, but we want to do it in a methodical way. So it needs to be done in a proper validated way, and not just a chat in your doctor's surgery. So I'm very worried, and I tell you, I'm very worried that your listeners may know that a problem happened with HRT years ago. There was some data from this robust, huge study that was showing an increase in breast cancer. So everyone stopped using it. And I worry now that we're going to get back there. We're going to get all these people who really probably shouldn't be using it, and people having higher doses. And I worry that we're then going to have a lot of bad press about it. And then everyone will stop using it again, because they'll all get worried. So when we see that, if we saw that women taking HRT don't exercise as much and they have more risk of heart disease, et cetera, then, and PCOS, if we see problems there, if we see other issues, I really worry that we're going to come all back to full circle, and women will say, oh, I'm too scared to take it now. So I think it's really important to practice good medicine and good science, and make sure we do this, and don't run before we can walk. We have to do the science. Someone said to me, but if we haven't got any data, shouldn't we just tell? No, we shouldn't just make it up. If we haven't got the data, we have to say we haven't got the data. You can't say anything else. That's it. So I worry that we'll end up in this really negative situation with HRT getting a hugely negative press if it continues along this vein. And I don't want that to happen. None of us are against HRT. We're absolutely for it. But those that are taking it need to take it, but those that don't need to or shouldn't be taking it.
And that's the prevention question. You've read all the papers that you could find on dementia and cardiovascular disease are the two I see consistently stated as fact, that it prevents cardiovascular disease and it prevents dementia with minimal risk. And that's where, there is more evidence, I think, for osteoporosis. But yeah, could you, everyone wants to know this, and practitioners are just as confused, it seems to me. So can you sort of frame, it's a very large topic, but is the evidence there, and what are, yeah.
So it's you know, I have I train master students. We have I teach master students at my university, and they're with us for a year. And in that year, I tried to spend that year teaching them how to read papers, and we do various tasks along the way. It's difficult to know how to read a paper, and there are lots of people, including health professionals, and we've had this with the fertility field, who don't know how to read the studies properly, so they don't come away with the right information. I mean, maybe it's partly the person who wrote the paper's fault, and I will try to be really clear, but it is difficult to know. So, for example, if there's the biggest, most important clinical trial is a randomized control trial, where, for example, you'll give half the women HRT and half the women non-HRT, and then they'll look, okay, in 10 years, how many got dementia, how many got heart disease, etc. But they're hard to understand, and some of them are good quality and some of them are not good quality. And there's something called a meta-analysis, where someone will read 3 or 4 or 5 or however many there are of these randomized controlled trials, and then look at all the data together. So you've got thousands and thousands of people, and then they'll do some high statistics on it and see, is this showing a significant result or not? Is this going to help? If I do this treatment, is it going to help? And unfortunately, when you see a lot of these meta-analyses, they say the evidence was too poor. So even though there's been trials done, they weren't of good enough quality, and there were problems in them, or it didn't really show what happened. So I spent a few days reading all the papers on all the recent clinical trials on HRT and dementia. And there was some that said they got a less dementia. There was some that said they got more dementia. And there was a lot that said they didn't get any difference in the two groups. Now, when you really dig into the papers and look at them, they all have lots of variables and what we call confounders. There's all these differences going on. Obviously, we said HRT, there's different ways of giving it. There's different brands, there's different doses, etc. Different times that women started, etc. So from reading them all, and I'm not the only one who feels this, I do not feel that evidence shows that taking HRT will reduce dementia. It seems that there's an effect of we give estrogen and progesterone, and it's the progesterone, or the type of progesterone that's being given. The conclusion of some of the papers was that may counteract any positive effects of estrogen. And there were some very small amounts of data that for women that had a hysterectomy, so we're just taking estrogen, they seem to have had some protection. But then we get into very, very small numbers. And when we get to small numbers, it's something that you've now got to do a big study on women that have had a hysterectomy that are just taking estrogen. So at this moment in time, for me, if I'd have read the papers and felt that it absolutely showed that taking HRT would reduce the risk of dementia, I tell you, I would have taken it. I absolutely would have taken it, because I have a big family history of dementia, and it's something that's always worried me. But for me, I could not conclude that the evidence actually showed this. And I've spoken to many other people who totally agree. It has sort of escalated a little bit we did wonder where it all started. And there were some studies that showed that estrogen may be important in the brain, etc., etc. And people have done brain MRIs and other brain scans of people in the perimenopause and premenopause and postmenopause. But just like in puberty, our brain connections change. And in the menopause, I mean, you said it as well. I feel, for me, post-menopause, a fog lifted from my brain. I felt that I went through puberty very early. I was 9. So I don't remember a time when I haven't had estrogen and progesterone buzzing around my body day in and day out, not knowing when I wake up, how am I going to feel? What are these powerful hormones going to be doing today? And a lot of the time feeling I was in the eye of a storm. And then post-menopause, I was like, wow, my brain is clear. This fog has gone. I apologized to two of my ex-boyfriends and said, I'm so sorry. I think I was a bit crazy when I was younger. And now I feel level and calm. I mean, I'm a cold water swimmer, so I show pictures of us in a big wave, then pictures of us at sunrise and a calm sea. And that's how I felt for the first time ever in my life. And so for me, I'd need a very strong argument to start putting those hormones back in my body. But that's me. And I'm a scientist, and we don't normally, I'm sharing my story, but it's not scientific to do that. It's not an N of one, it's nothing. I just want people to hear all stories. So I wanted to share mine.
And tell me a little bit more about on the other side, because you literally, you hear it and it's horrible, and it's a direct line to disease and decrepitude. And that doesn't seem what I see with my eyeballs in the world. So tell me about it.
It's not. So I've started a podcast recently this year. And I started by interviewing some really motivating women who are really on my page. So last week's one is someone called Jo Mosley, who's a paddleboard. She started paddleboarding when she was in the perimenopause, and she's written a book, she's made a film, she's just so inspiring. And there's many other women. I'm going to be interviewing so many other motivating women. And now I totally agree with what Jo would say to you and all these other women. We really feel the best we've ever felt. Because, you know, if you think about when you're 18, 20, 21, there's all these things you're trying to do. You know, you're trying to get educated, trying to get your career, trying to get a partner. You might want to be trying to get children. You know, you want to buy a house. You want all these things you need to do. You get to my age, they're done. They're tick, 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 tick. I've still got teenagers at home, actually, but they're almost flying away. Almost, not quite. But it's a time when you can do whatever you want to do. And that freedom is a word that I use all the time. It's incredibly freeing. And I'm doing a lot about happiness. I really feel that we can be the happiest we've ever been, and we can lead the best lives we've ever wanted to live. But to do that, you have to stop and reflect and think about what actually makes you happy. So I know a lot of women that aren't in a happy place at my age, but I know a lot of women that are. But the ones that are really people that have thought about it. And I hear so many people say, I'm going to retire. And I say, what are you going to do? And they say, I don't know. No, that doesn't work. Okay. You should be knowing now what makes you happy and what you'd like to pursue more when you retire. So I think reflecting on, you know, waking up every day, what's going to make me happy today? It might be a candlelit bath. It might be dancing around the kitchen for 10 minutes, might be singing a song, going for a walk. I think spending time in nature. We live in a beautiful planet, and, you know, watching the sunrise and the sunset. I never did that as much as I do now, and feeling free and being with your girlfriends, going dancing, you know, doing all the things you want to, and also spending more time alone. I think COVID for many people, and not just being at home alone, but doing quality things. So I started going to gigs on my own. I go to the theatre on my own. I've got lots of friends that want to come, but sometimes I just think I'm just going to go on my own and not, you know. So I don't do it all the time, but you know, it's a really freeing time for many women. But life is what you make it. It's never too late to turn it round. So think about it, and really, you can do it. It doesn't need to cost money. It could just be going for a walk, standing on a hill and watching the sunrise or the sunset, you know, looking at the beach. It's available to everyone, but we do have to work at it, because we have probably spent the whole of our lives looking after everybody else, you know, around us. Women do. Look after yourself, put your own oxygen mask on first, and think, right, I'm going to, and that now you have to find the time, spend some time on you, and don't worry about anybody else. You know, they can do whatever they want. But you know, I think we can do it.
I love it. Figure out who you are and what you want, and then go do that. I love it. You make it look so good. So I'm just really, really happy I connected with you. Where can people find your podcast and your next book? And
so my next book, my mother, who's not with us anymore, my mother had a saying, good health and happiness. And I think my next book is going to be called Good Health and Happiness. And it's going to be subtitled Over 50. So I want to interview 50 women over 50 because the other thing is that what makes everyone happy is totally different. We are very, very different. So there's no one size fits all for all of these things. So I have a website. It's joyceharper.com. So all one word, joyceharper.com. And there you can get my book from any retailer, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, my podcast links on there, but they can go to all the podcast channels. Just put in Joyce Harper and it will come up, and it's called Why Didn't Anyone Tell Me This? I ask all my guests what makes them happy and where is their happy place. And I want all of your listeners to think about it, because some people don't answer. Some people say work. I know work's fine. It's good. I'm glad people are happy at work, but we shouldn't just be happy at work. That shouldn't be the only answer. Okay. So everyone can think about that. They're a bit of homework from me.
amazing.
And really, let's all work at making our lives the best life we could ever have.
This is going somewhere good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.